The Jesus Trilogy, Book 2, Then There Were Two, Chapter 27, Part C. After supper, Jesus had to go down to the town center store. He'd run out of the cherry stain and wanted to finish staining the cabinet he was working on. He headed down to the store. It was dark by now, and the street lamps were glowing in the fading twilight. About a block from the square, he noticed a man standing under one of the lamps on the opposite side of the street. A sudden chill crept up his spine as he saw the black armband with SL written on it, circling the man's left sleeve. Jesus had slowed slightly, but he immediately resumed his pace and stared straight ahead as if he had blinders on. He heard no footsteps coming after his and did not think the SL soldier was following him. He turned back to look, only as he entered the store, but saw no one was following. The square was empty save for one guy over on the park bench. He was slumped over in what Jesus presumed was a drunken stupor. His snoring could be heard all across the square. Jesus went in, got the stain and a white rose. He would give it to his mother. He knew she was lonelier than he. He had love, albeit not from a long distance. But she had no love unless you count heaven to earth love. He had seen her and his father as in love as any two persons could be. They were always kissing and holding hands. At the time it seemed nauseating, but now he understood. His mother and father were the only married couple who would display affection openly. Some people didn't like it, but Joseph and Mary never cared. They were proud of their love for one another and wanted the world to know it. He tried to do the same with his wife Mary, but sometimes self-consciousness got in the way. He wondered if he loved Mary as much as his father loved his mother. He came to the conclusion that no one could possibly love anyone more than he loved his Mary. That was for sure. Lately, while he worked, the Messiah business had occasionally slipped back into his mind. He had tried to push the thoughts out of his brain, but it kept recycling back in. He had wondered at the time of his incident with the SL if the messianic or maniacal part of his life was beginning. He at times thought it was all so absurd that he had given his calling, if indeed it was real, a nickname. He was to be called a maniac. But after the incident, things returned to ho-hum normalcy. He refocused and realized he would just have to work hard and let God take care of the really hard stuff. "Who's the rose for? Your sweetheart?" The voice startled Jesus. It was deep, yet had a slight rasp to it. He turned and saw the guy on the park bench looking up at him. Jesus thought of just walking on by to the other side of the square, but found himself saying, "It's for my mother." "How come your mother? Doesn't a good-looking guy like yourself have a sweetheart?" Jesus didn't want to take time to get into a deep discussion, but offered, "I sure do, a beautiful wife." "What's her name?" "Oh, I keep that a secret." "I didn't mean to pry." "I'm sorry, I must go." "Where are you headed?" Jesus took a step forward and then answered, "Home." "Where's home?" "About a mile down the road." "How about you?" Jesus found himself saying, even though he needed to get home. "Capernaum." "Really? That's where my Mary's going to school." "Yeah, I live and work in Megiddo. Have to work down in Samaria all week this week, then home on weekends." "So what brings you here?" Jesus said, returning to the bench and sitting down next to the stranger. It was then that he smelled the unmistakable aroma of alcohol in the guy's breath. He tried to get up, but could not bring himself to do so. "Work begins at 8, so I get a little head start on Sunday night." "Married?" "No." Jesus did not press that issue. He couldn't imagine not being married. He had only been married a few months, but knew he could not tolerate being alone very well at all. He had been with Mary as a classmate, friend, lover, and now husband. He didn't know what he would do without her. "Did you get a little lonesome?" Jesus asked. "Oh, sure, but I got friends, some in Megiddo, Nazareth, many in Capernaum." "Any relatives?" "A couple of cousins live in Cap City." "Oh, so what's your line?" "Line? What kind of work do you do?" "Carpenter." "Really? I'm in real estate." The stranger held out his hand. Ralph's my name. Yours? Jesus. Glad to meet you, Jesus. Generally all I see are beggars, hookers, and the SL. Well, it was a pleasure meeting you also. I better get back before Mom goes to bed. Jesus reeled backwards from the smell of the spirits on Ralph's breath. Yeah, we must respect our parents. Strange comment, Jesus thought. Well, maybe we'll cross paths again sometime. He reached out to shake Ralph's hand. Ralph took it. He noticed the grip was unusually firm. See you around, Jesus. Jesus thought he caught a glint of violet emanating from the stranger's eyes. Couldn't be, he thought. He looked quickly at Ralph's eyes again and didn't think he saw it this time and headed down the road to South Nazareth and home. Oh, Abdullah dropped by to talk, Jesus. Mary had a big smile on her face. Then Jesus noticed a big bouquet of red roses centered in a large vase on the table. Hi, how are you, Jesus? Good, good, and you? I'm fine, he almost said. Good to see you again, but realized he wasn't, so he didn't. He had gotten the rose he was carrying into his pocket fast enough, though. His eagle-eyed mother had spotted it. Who's the white rose for, dear? Probably some beautiful girl, Ab said. Gentile was by a half hour ago. She wanted to talk to you. Something about some business with Judas. Was the flower? Mary stopped short. Certainly the flower would not be for Gentile, or would it? She spontaneously continued. For Jennifer. Jesus' face turned red, and the uneasy feeling of trouble coursed through his torso. A headache simultaneously knifed into his left temple. He was prone to headaches, and he expected this one would be a doozy. It's for you, Mom, he said. He hated his honest streak, but he realized whatever he said now would not be believed by either Mary or Abdullah. I thank you, son. She came up and kissed him on the cheek. I'll put it right here in the center of these red ones from Abdullah. It will make a nice little crown for the others, don't you think? Yes, Jesus said weakly. So the carpentry business, Abdullah said. Good, good. I must get to the shop and finish the staining for a customer. Have a good evening, Abdullah said. Don't work too late, son, Mary said. Good to see you again, Jesus, Abdullah added. Jesus wanted to be polite and say good to see you too, but he knew he wouldn't mean it. Goodbye, he said. He wasn't sure if he liked the stranger intruding into him and his mother's life. He wondered what his father would think. He so wished his father was alive. He would ask him this and so many other questions. He and his father had their differences, but did usually see eye to eye on man-woman things. Joseph had been a real romantic person despite his imposing exterior. Jesus had tried to emulate him in his relationship with Mary. He often was amazed how well his father's techniques worked. Mary could have had any boy in their school or in the city for that matter. She knew it, too. Boys would always give her looks and whistles. Even old men and soldiers would turn and stare. Her beauty was near legend in Nazareth. She was homecoming queen and had modeling offers from as far away as Jerusalem and Cairo. Jesus still pinched himself every time he thought about how lucky he was. She had chosen him, a carpenter, to marry. Oh yeah, he was a football player, but once that glory was gone, the playing field leveled, and a carpenter was not ever going to be in the upper echelons of society. He attributed his good fortune to two things: his undying love for Mary and his father's advice. Joseph had always told him that if he loved someone enough, the love would overcome any barrier, and so it had. One of his father's theorems was, if a relationship didn't work, it wasn't because love was not enough, because there wasn't enough love. Jesus had made sure that he gave Mary enough love. He had loved her from the first day he saw her on the first day of school in the first grade, and his love had just kept growing for her ever since. How he would miss her tonight. Just thinking about her beautiful eyes would arouse him. Then there was Gentile. He had to get her out of the picture. He would never let anything come between his and Mary's love. He opened the shop door, lit the 2 lamps, and stepped inside. He set the stain down on the paint stand and looked in one of the drawers for some paint brushes. Just then a sparrow flew up from the floor and out the open window. Jesus was startled and turned to see what it was. As he did so, his right elbow caught the jar of cherry stain. It went crashing to the cobblestone floor and broke in a dozen pieces, the stain forming a big red cherry puddle on the floor. He threw up his hands in disgust. What next? He wondered aloud. Then he saw the deep stain marks on the smooth surface of the cabinet top. The stain had splattered on the smooth top, leaving dark spots, much too dark. He would have to sand the top again, then go get more sand tomorrow, and then stain it. It would take much of the morning. The customer was to be there by noon, and he had planned to finish the cabinet tonight. He had several other projects he needed to get started on. Every order always seemed to have a short deadline. He sat down on the stool at the bottom, and his coat slid into the red pool. He stared out the window in a dejected gaze. Why was life always so complicated? He missed Mary so much, but he knew she needed to stay in school. His mother had a suitor, something he wasn't sure he agreed with. Gentile was going to mess up his life. He could just sense it. And now, on top of it all, he had just created more work for himself. Why couldn't life just smooth out a little just once? He kept staring out the window at the stars. Dear God, he said, why can't life be a little easier? Could you please, please just make my life a little easier? Just a little bit, I just can't take it. He normally prayed with his eyes closed, but he wasn't really sure he was praying now. Maybe he was just talking. Or was he praying? He didn't know, but he seriously doubted God was listening. His words were interrupted by a movement in the window. The little sparrow that had flown out that lit again on the sill. The sparrow eyed Jesus staring at him. The little bird looked one way, then the other, then he cocked his head as if to listen. Jesus said, yeah, you caused me a lot of trouble tonight, so what will you do about it? Maybe you can fix this cabinet for me. He looked down at the ugly stain spots on his cabinet and ran his hand over it. The stain spots weren't dry yet, and the smearing caused by his hand made the cabinet look all the worse. Further dejected, he let his head drop, and immediately the ache in his left temple returned. He was suddenly startled as his little friend began to chirp loudly. Jesus was amazed at how much sound could come from such a little bird. He waved his hand to shoo the little bird away, but the sparrow didn't flinch. He just sang on louder than before. After a couple of minutes of this impromptu aria, the tension in Jesus' temple eased. He suffered from frequent headaches. Dr. Luke called them migraines. There was no cure, and sometimes he would just go to bed for 24 hours. It was a curse his father had passed on to him. And Jesus hated every second of every headache. The pain was unbearable, but he hated the time they wasted even more. Mary had occasional headaches, but he expected she used them as protection when she wasn't feeling too amorous. She knew he was always in the mood, as all men are. The tension easing, a smile began to creep across Jesus' face. The infectious smile sent electrical waves to his funny bone, and he burst out laughing. He kept laughing until tears came to his eyes. He never understood why happiness eventually brought tears if one was happy enough. A little sparrow weighing a few ounces had the power over him, a 6-foot 2-inch muscular carpenter. The little bird had scared him and made him mess up his cabinet. Then the little guy had the gall to sit there and mock him by singing so long and loud that he made the 6-foot 2-inch, 180-pound grown man laugh. Jesus broke out into laughter again, and this time literally rolled onto the floor. He just couldn't seem to turn off the laughter. Suddenly his mother came to the shop. Son, what on earth is the matter? Have you gone mad?